Okay, so what I'm going to do today is show you how to prepare store-bought plants for going into a bioactive viv. So first off, depending upon where you got your plants from, more than likely they're gonna have pesticides and fertilizers on them. This may be due in part to the store itself spraying or the nursery where they came from. A lot of times the nursery where they came from is your culprit, as it were. So these are air plants. These are really easy to do. All I have here is a bucket of water with some Dawn dish soap in it, and all I'm gonna do is dunk them, swish them around, and rinse off the soap. So that is it. Air plants are really easy to do. Dawn dish soap actually is a form of like bug killer itself. My mother always sprayed it on her roses. So if there's any bugs, it'll go away. So with this plant, I forget the name, starts with a C. It actually doesn't need to be in soil, so I'm going to take it out of the soil, and I have a bucket here I'm just going to dump all the soil into. So as you can see, there's some soil still on it. It's really sandy, but it's just going to go in here. I'm give it a rinse, the same treatment. I'm just going to gently rub where the soil is clumped, because you can see there's just a hint of root system here. And to be honest, I'm probably going to wrap some sphagnum moss around this just to help it retain moisture, because it's really dry here. So that's going to be always a struggle. So soaped, rinsed, ready for sphagnum moss. As you can see, I got most of the soil, most of the soil off the roots, but that one's ready to go. So before I get into the next two plants I have that will be just transferring into soil, I want to talk about my soil mix. So I split my soil mix, really, when I think about it in three different ways: nutrition, difference in sizes, and then water retention. So with nutrition, it's actually two parts. It's bug nutrition and plant nutrition. So I have my soil blend. I start with Nature's Care by Miracle-Gro. It is one of the few Miracle-Gro products that are okay to go in vivs. Most have too many fertilizers, but Nature's Care organic potting soil is okay. So that's my nutrition for my plants. Also part of that, but more nutrition for bugs, is I mix in sphagnum moss and leaf litter into my soil. So you can see there's a couple of sticks in here, there's definitely some leaves, there's sphagnum moss. So, and the sphagnum moss, in part with these handful of little perlite balls, are also with water retention. So once again, it's really dry here, so in order to keep my soil moist, I have to have additives like these two things that keep it wetter for longer. That way I'm not having to water or have my fogger run every 2 hours. So, and then the other thing is particle sizes. So what I did was I bought a bag. My local greenhouse makes their own orchid blend, and that's where these perlites came from. But the orchid blend is orchid bark, so little pieces of orchid bark. And then let's see if I can find any. It also has a horticulture charcoal in it, which also helps keep your soil balanced. Yeah, here's a little tiny piece. But the different particle sizes help in keeping your soil from becoming compacted, because if it becomes really compacted and settles in and it doesn't have any wiggle room, the roots struggle to grow through it sometimes. So if you can keep it nice and fluffy and have different things in there, it'll keep it from becoming compacted and allow your bugs to get down into your soil and turn it and work it. So that's my substrate blend. Those are the three things I go for. Once again, are nutrition, particle sizes, and water retention. If you can get all those covered, then you're good. So the next plant I'm going to go over. So this is my dwarf palm that I bought. I know it has spray fertilizers and where it has waterborne fertilizers in the soil, it also has spray pesticides. So I'm going to gently squeeze the sides and then hold over and gently pull. So these guys absolutely hate their roots being messed with, so try to only do it once if you can help it. They're really sensitive to having their roots messed with. So I'm going to try to clean out as much soil as possible, and I am reusing this pot just for the waiting period. So I'm going to rinse it here and get as much of the old soil out as possible. Give it another rinse. Just because, once again, we're trying to purge these of pesticides and fertilizers that the greenhouse or the nursery use. So the other thing with these guys is their root system is super compact, so like I'm being gentle and just like squeezing in a circular motion, not really working on one area too much, trying to get the soil out. But with this, with a really tight pack root ball, it's hard to do. You just kind of got to go with it. So I got some out. I'm going to rinse it. Putting the root ball in water will get a lot more soil out. So yeah, see? Oops, sorry, you can see. So I got a lot of the soil out. So now that I got the soil out, I dump the top, give them a rinse, and rinse it off. So now I have a virtually soilless root ball that I need to re-put in here. So I don't want my roots exposed at the bottom, so I'm going to just put a really thin layer, I don't want the twig though, a really thin layer of my substrate on the bottom. I'm gonna close up the holes because it will fall through. So maybe a bit too much. That would be why the sphagnum moss got in there. So just a really thin layer, and then I'm gonna put this on top. And to get the soil back into these guys, whoops, is kind of a pain because their root ball is so packed. You're gonna have to, you know, just add a bit at a time and then go like gently push down, add some more, gently push down, add more, because you want to try to fill in all of those little gaps. Plants can be really finicky and they won't like, you know, air in their roots. Can be. I didn't seem to have any problems with this dwarf palm last time I did this, and I'm sure I left some gaps a little bit. I know I'm spilling like soil in my sink, but it snowed last night and I'm not working outside, so if you can work outside, I suggest it. But if you can't, have a stopper in your sink, or use, you know, you definitely use buckets, but have a stopper. So I'm just filling this guy in. And so like I said, this will help get rid of a good chunk of pesticides and fertilizers. You got rid of the soil, which is where most of it resides. Aside from the spray stuff, which once again you rinse off. I throw the excess soil out into my garden because why not? It doesn't need to be tossed. It is still good soil. Alright, well, I'm probably going to put more in here off camera, but for now, it's got enough soil to be happy. So, the last one I have is my giant wandering Jew, and this one has grown. Okay, sorry about that. My camera cut out. So as I was saying, the wandering Jew had roots at the bottom. I unfortunately didn't record, and I didn't realize I wasn't recording, so I'm gonna have to like go through all this with you. I did have to rip the roots at the bottom, which was not great, but wandering Jew is a prolific grower. As you can see, it completely overgrew its you know, little pot. The root ball inside is really thick, like it is just roots all the way around. It really does need a bigger pot. I have one, it's just out in my shed, and I'm not gonna go get that right now because there's snow outside. So it can wait, it'll be fine in this little pot for a little bit. So what I did is I pulled it out. I tried to get the soil out, but because the root ball is so dense, I didn't get a lot of soil out. So I rinsed it. After I rinsed it, I still didn't get a lot of soil out because once again, that root ball is so dense and so tight packed. So with plants going into the viv, I like to give them some time before they do, just to finish cycling out any fertilizers or pesticides that may be, you know, residuals. The air plants, I just put right into a tank. I don't have their tank ready yet, so I'm not going to. But the other couple plants need to just, you know, take a moment. This guy, you know, I'm just going to wrap in some sphagnum moss, so he'll probably be good, like, within a few days to go into a tank. The dwarf palm, now I got most of the soil out, so I'd still give it a week, just to get over the shock of what it just went through, because it just had all of its nutrients, all of its soil gone. It just disappeared and it changed. So plants don't really like that. They get angry, and they can go into what's called soil shock. So I like to give them a few weeks just to get over that shock of going through that. With the wandering Jew, and I apologize that my camera wasn't recording, because the root ball was so tightly packed, and I put soil in here already, so I can't even really pull it out without making more of a mess. With the root ball being so tightly packed and me not being able to get the soil out, I'm going to give this plant a good 3 weeks before it goes into a viv, because I don't want any fertilizers or pesticides in my tank. I didn't see any time release fertilizer balls in there, so I'm good with probably just a couple week wait on that. So my plants are prepared. The few that I have are going to go in the waiting stage where they're just cycling out. The few that I have that can go in right away, I may put in my crusty viv just so they're somewhere. But at the same time, I don't really have space for them in there, so I may just keep them all together. Went over soil, my substrate blend, you know, the 3 points that I like to keep in mind when mixing my own. And yeah, so I'm going to take this outside and dump it, this outside and dump it, because it's cold, and that's why I worked inside. So my plants are done, they're resting, my coffee's done, so I'm going to go get that. Yeah, so I'm done.